Hi guys, Adam here for Full Time Devils. We are joined today by Dan, to my left, usual face Steve. We're from Full Time Devils, he's from Football Focus, and today we're here to talk Manchester United against Chelsea. It must feel weird for you with me being on this side of the mic in your studio, so I'll let it come over to you for a sec.
Thank you. It does feel very strange. Lovely to have you here though, boys. I mean, there's lots of questions I'd like to ask you, but talking about Monday night's game, sat in, I think he was actually in your chair there, Andrew Cole was there a few moments ago, and he was saying about Monday. It'd be interesting to see what you guys think about this as well. That the fact that Ibrahimovic isn't there, he was trying to look at the sort of positive sides of that to say that it gives you that great opportunity because obviously Mourinho is desperate to do well against his old side, and Chelsea have been so good, particularly at home. Why can't Manchester United go there and cause some sort of upset? He was saying use Rashford because Chelsea aren't used to the pace. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I predicted 1-1, going to extra time and we win. Okay. But I totally agree with that. I think over the last couple of weeks, I think Steve will agree as well, Zlatan's been amazing for us. But there have been times when he hasn't performed or he's underperformed or he's dropped very deep and we've never had someone in the box. And I feel Rashford showed, obviously against lesser opposition against Blackburn, that he can play in the number 9 position. And I think with the way Chelsea play with the 3 at the back, 2 very high players out wide, so there's a lot of spaces in those wide areas. I think using the likes of Marshall and Rashford to stretch that defence and get out wide can definitely cause them problems. But being without Zlatan Ibrahimovic is always going to be a miss, mainly for the mentality that it brings, his experience, his leadership. I think people talk about him eventually leaving Manchester United, and I think when he does leave, that's what we'll miss the most, is his experience and his leadership. Because over the last 3 years, when we lost Fergie, Scholes, Evra, Giggs, etc., Rio, all these players left, we lost that true leader, and I think that's the main thing he brings to us. But I do agree with Andy Cole in the sense that Rashford is amazing and he can cause them some problems.
I think Rashford, for me, would be who I'd start. I don't think Jose's going to. I think he's going to play Rooney. I think he's going to play Rooney in like a false 9, similar to the way Zlatan sort of deployed. But I do think if we did use Rashford, like you both sort of said, the pace that Rashford excels against teams that play a high line. When someone constricts the space and collapses the midfield onto the defence, like we've seen so many of the lesser clubs that come and make it difficult at Old Trafford, he doesn't really excel. He can't hold the ball up yet. That's one of the weaknesses of his game. But the asset, if he's got anything, is his ability to get in behind. We've seen it against City. We've seen it against Arsenal. It's weird how it works. In the bigger the game, the more Rashford sort of comes in because he's got that ability to get in behind. Like we saw it at Blackburn, who played a weirdly high line for a team that was in a lower division, and Rashford exploits that like nobody else, and I would love to see that against Chelsea.
You talk about pace against Chelsea because you think this season, I think of the games that you've watched, maybe only Spurs have utilised their wing-backs really cleverly, haven't they, to get behind Alonso and Moses, but hardly any sides have actually got behind Chelsea this season. Maybe it's easy to sit here and sort of plot it that way, but maybe that could be the key to Manchester United having success. I know you've planned it out very specifically, 1-1 and winning extra time, but what do you think?
I think you bang on there, but it's the onus on Chelsea to come out to us here. It's not at Old Trafford where they can sit back, soak it up. So I think with the pressure being on them to come out, and I think we did a preview for the channel, and we spoke about the battle in midfield and the influence Herrera can have on United and the influence Kante can have. And if Herrera can do a job on Fabregas, whoever's in that middle, I think we can definitely stop Chelsea from playing. But they're the best team in the country at the moment. I think that's quite obvious. I think they're the only team in the country that is quite clearly better than Manchester United, because I don't think we're that far behind the rest despite our position. And I think going there after that 4-0 defeat earlier in the season, when I looked at the starting lineup that started that day, there was no Mkhitaryan, no Marshall. Fellaini started in the midfield. I don't think we started Carrick, although I may be wrong. And I think we can approach this game in a completely different position, completely different mind frame. Chelsea are the favourites. I think we'll thrive off that. And I think Jose Mourinho tactically is pretty good. I mean, we've gone to Liverpool and done a job earlier in the season, although it wasn't pretty. And the game in Rostov in the Europa League, I mean, that was a bizarre game. But again, he got his tactics spot on. So I think tactically, Jose Mourinho will find something to get better of Chelsea this week. But I think Conte and Chelsea are a force to beat. And I think if we can keep it tight early on, maybe get the first goal, I'm not going to be surprised if it goes to extra time, but I think we can do something. I think a lot of United fans are writing us off, and you shouldn't yet.
on that, I'm not confident. I'm not going to write us off, but I'm going to say I'm not confident going into this game because I think while we have been grinding results out, we haven't been seeing the performances, and that was something that we saw a little bit under Louis van Gaal. We was getting results, but the performances was kind of like we might have got 3 points, but I didn't feel good about that. Whereas under Jose, we've seen some excellent performances, and we've somehow come away with a draw quite often. That sort of slipped a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and we've seen more grinded out performances. I was completely happy with the result and the performance in Rostov in the circumstances. Happy with the away goal, that'll do. We did it in the EFL Cup final. We ground out a result. We took our chances. And I think if you look back to what happened last time we played Chelsea, they scored with 4 on-target shots and scored 4 goals, right? Do you know how rare that is? If Manchester United had been scoring even half of our onside shots, we'd have been like 300 goals up or something at the moment. Zlatan's missed nearly 100 chances himself. So I think that we're not going to get beat 4-0. It's going to be a much closer game. I think Jose Mourinho's got some tactical surprises up his sleeve, as we saw against Rostov. That was the first time in 800 matches he's ever played 3 at the back. So I think that he's definitely going to have some sort of surprise in there, and I think he is going back to Stamford Bridge, which is obviously there's a bit of an onus on him to do well there, and he's on the back of a 4-0 defeat on his last time that he went back there. So I think he's going to certainly flip that a little bit. I still don't think we're going to win, and I'm not even overly minded about it because I think we've got to concentrate on the league, but I do think it's going to be a lot more difficult than people are making out.
With fan channels, I think there's room for all sorts of voices as well, and I think a lot of people that dislike fan channels, whether the Manchester United fans that dislikes what we do or as a non-Manchester United fan that dislikes what we do, I think the beauty of it is that there's everybody's voice, whether it's Steve that's on it every week or whether there's a gentleman that comes on just randomly. And depending on the topic, I think we can be very useful in uniting fans as well. And I think if, for example, like, I know we probably couldn't have stopped it. I'm not suggesting that by any stretch of the imagination. But for example, when the Murdoch takeover back in the day, or when the Glazers tried to take over, you could bring people together. And if something like that was to happen again, or we were to have a management issue at the club or anything like that, then hopefully we could bring fans together again. I mean, we saw how fans came together last season with the 20s Plenty campaign, and that worked. And I mean, some fan channels were a part of that as well. So I think, yes, whilst the rants grab a lot of attention, and I think we do have a responsibility to both represent the club properly and not overreact at times, but also give a fair reflection of fan opinion. And I think we do that, but it's not just fan cams that we do. We do preview content, we do fun content, we do serious stuff, debates, and we get opinion from everybody, not just fans. We try and bring journalists in, ex-players, etc. So, and yourself?
And that, for me, that's the thing about football, is that I think the best pundits who have played the game at the highest level, international football, played for their clubs, won trophies, they appreciate that fans' opinion is just as relevant as theirs. Theirs is obviously different and comes from perspective of being inside a dressing room and having lifted a trophy, but you watch probably more of your team than they will watch of that side. So I think, and that's a good thing. Just make sure that even if someone's opinion is different to yours, you don't have to tell them to F and Jeff off. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. I think it's really sort of a healthy position to be in. It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. And if you're right, if you get 1-1 right on Monday night and Manchester United win in extra time, I think you've got a job for life.
It's a replay of Moscow. There might even be some Terry tears as well.
Okay, it's all been sorted. Thanks, fellas.